Hello again. So what I think would be quite useful is to talk about how I might prepare for, how I might develop a training plan for a bikepacking event of maybe, a week or less. So what I'm going to do is use the example of the Trans-Pyrenees, which is, I coached somebody for that event last year and they did quite well. And also because I live on the coast of a small village called Olet, which is part of the route back into, back across the Pyrenees to the west. Then I could talk more specifically about the details of the area. So I'm going to do this over a few videos. And the first video I'm going to do what I do when I start preparing for an event or start helping somebody prepare for an event is I gather as much information as possible for that event. So let's have a look. Well, the first thing obviously is to have a look and see if there's a website and see what information you can get off the website. And this is relevant for any event, but I'm just going to use this Trans-Pyrenees as an example and then walk you through preparing the training plan so that you can follow along if you want. And I might prepare an off-the-shelf training plan so you can buy that in Training Peaks if you want to do that. And please let me know if that's of interest to you. So let's have a look. So this is the website. It's very nice looking. As usual, it gives a title. It's got some nice pictures. Don't discount the pictures because they give you a good idea of the environment you're going to be cycling in. It's probably a reasonable idea of the weather conditions you can expect, and also road surfaces. This event's all on the road. Obviously that's not always the case. There's usually an event video, so that gives you some information, and also might have some interviews with the riders. Price here, and then we get some details here. 1,000 kilometres roughly. This is obviously last year's event. The routes change slightly every year, but that's okay. They don't change very much. 25,000 metres of elevation gain. And you get about a week to do it. If you look at the results, the times vary from 3 to 6 days. If you take 6 days to do it, you've got 265 kilometres a day and 4,000 metres of climb. And if you're going to do it in 3 days, which would give you a good chance of being the fastest finisher, then you're looking at 330 kilometres a day and 8,000 metres of climb, which is quite a lot. And so that in miles, if you're in America or you're old like me and from Britain, then that's around about 100 miles a day for the 6-day finish and 200 miles a day for the 3-day finish. So quite tough with all that climbing. But there's no reason why you can't do it, because 100 miles a day, 160 kilometres a day is within the reach of most sort of fit cyclists. So it's an exciting challenge, and if you're thinking of doing your first event, there's lots of resupply points, and therefore it might be a good adventure for you to start with. And also the weather's pretty good. The likelihood is that the weather's going to be quite good in June, although it could be pretty hot. You then get a breakdown of the route, and then you can get more detail. This gives you the altitudes, and then you can get more detail from the regulations, the rules. It's always worth reading the rules before you commit to something, just to see what you're letting yourself in for. Sometimes they have a lot of information. So things like the Atlas Mountain Race, those series, that's another, might be quite a good one. It's quite short, which also is the same company that does the Silk Road Race. But if you look at the Atlas Mountain Race, which is an off-road event, then it gives you distances between resupply points, which is a really useful piece of information. And that helps you with planning your training. And I use that distance between resupply points as a basis for some of the training. It's not really so critical in this race because there's lots of places in the Pyrenees, there are lots of little villages, and unless you're on a Sunday, then you wouldn't need to worry much about finding somewhere to get something to eat. And then it gives you more information about how to sign up and the pricing. What kind of bike? It tells you it's all on road, so you can ride a road bike, which is quite useful to know. Is there an official route? It's a fixed route. So you don't have to worry about planning your own route, but obviously you need to worry about navigation because nobody's going to show you the way. It's not a marked route, obviously, with that sort of distance. If you get lost, if you have a mechanical problem, you've got to sort it out yourself, basically. Here are the dates. So you get from the 25th of June to the 2nd of July. This is a bit ambiguous. It means it's asking if you can book somewhere before departure. Like some people might think, oh, I'll book some bed and breakfast accommodation or some hotels on the route. And then I'll just sleep in them and ride to a certain schedule. But that's not allowed. You have to... if you're going to book somewhere, you have to book it after you've set off so that you're actually within the time of the event. And then there's other information here like regulations and previous editions. So and also there was the video. So if you look at this is a video from the 2020 event. That's quite long. There's a video from last year's event, 2021, and there's a longer video from 2019. So if you look at the rules, these are fairly straightforward. A lot of the rule books have a lot more detail, so and give you lots of useful information. This tells you what specifically you have to carry. You have to carry lights. You're not allowed to ride on the motorway. It basically just means you have to follow the rules of the road. You have to take everything with you if you don't throw your rubbish away. You've got to ride under your own power, be self-sufficient. It's a set route event, so you have to stay on this is basically because they run several events, the rule book may be the same, but we're talking about the Trans-Pyrenees here. The other routes, the Badlands and Trans-Iberica. I coached somebody for Trans-Iberica a couple of years ago, and that's a really nice event. It's a bit longer, it's over 2,000 kilometres. You need a tracker, which basically allows people to watch how you're getting on, all your family and friends. And also just allows them to check that you've done what you've said you've done. Then there's some detail about the previous events. Sorry, if you here look at previous editions, you can click on that on the website. It's always useful to look at the results. So as you can see here, here's the range of finishing time, 67 hours to 138 hours. What I'd normally recommend is that you ride to a time schedule. So you sort of make a plan according to roughly what pace you expect to ride at, what speed you expect to be able to ride at, and how long you expect to be able to do each day. But you don't use that for your ride. You use a time schedule because if things go wrong, then you're not off schedule. So there's a lot of good reasons to ride to duration and not worry too much about distance in these long events. But we'll talk about that in future videos. So if you click on the report button, so this is a website called Dot Watcher, which allows you to track how people are going using these trackers. But it also gives you useful information about the route. You can see the route overall here on a map. You can see it on Ride with GPS. So that gives you some really useful information. You can see the profile. So if you look here, you can see that's the Trans-Pyrenees 2020 on Ride with GPS. So if you then go to that in Ride with GPS, you can get a lot of detail about what's expected of you. And then if you track along the route, you can see you go from the start across the Pyrenees. You can see the climbs, and then so what you can get here is you get the gradients of the climbs. Which is useful. You can see what we seem to get the sort of maximum gradient seems to be around about 10%, so that helps you get your gearing sorted out. You can see the longest, how long the longest climb is, and then you can start to make an estimate of how long it'll take you to get up these climbs. As a consequence, you can start understanding what you need to be doing, and then you can set your training according to that. And then the other thing I'll do, have a look on Facebook and forums and see see what you can find and see whether there's some groups. There's good groups on ultra cycling. I'm not sure if there's a group for the Trans-Pyrenees event, particularly this one. If you are looking for the information about this particular event, this one's run by Trans-Iberica, but there's also one run by Pedal Ed, which is a different organisation. I think that runs later in the year, sort of October time. Also a great event. I think it's primarily on road. It has some... I think that has some route planning, so you have to plan your own route for the first half of it, and then you ride back over the Pyrenees on a fixed route. In summary, what have we found? We found that the climbs go up to about 10%. It's 1,000 kilometres, 25,000 metres of climbing. So if you want to do it in 6 days, you have to do 165 kilometres a day and 4,000 metres of climbing. And if you want to do it in 3 days, you have to do 330 kilometres a day and 8,000 metres of climbing. And you've got the longest climbs. you've got some idea of weather conditions. You can check out all the resupply points on the route, and you know how much it costs, and that's the sort of thing I would start with. And I'll see you in the next video to see what I would use that information to do. Okay, bye.